We're ready for the Derby. Ahmed Fareed here, Corey Robinson, Jac Collinsworth. We've all got our style. I'm wearing a suit jacket for the first time on all things. Corey's got his floral print. Jac's got headphones. You got headphones for the first time, Jac.
Well, as you guys know, it was an interesting setup period, but most important thing is we're in focus, at least for now. And we're here, boys. Let's do it.
We're looking good, and that is like 90% of the battle if you're going to go to the Kentucky Derby, which unfortunately this year fans are not going to be able to partake. This is all things Kentucky Derby. What we're going to do here is we're going to go through the entire field. You got 18 horses this year. We'll take a look at some of the morning line odds. We'll maybe pick a couple favorites that we have out there. And if you're a sports bettor or just a beginner dabbling in it, perhaps we'll link a horse up with a good story, and you can win some money coming up here on Saturday. But Corey, this is going to be unusual because for the first time ever, we got the first Saturday of September. Usually the Kentucky Derby first Saturday of May at Churchill Downs in Kentucky. This is totally unique this year, much like everything else in 2020.
I gotta say, I'm a fan of the alliteration. First Saturday in September, to me, that has a nice ring to it. But yeah, I'm super stoked for this. I never really been to a horse races, never watched it before. I told you guys before I actually watched Peaky Blinders, and I joined NBC, and those two events kind of changed the trajectory of my horse racing life. So I've been kind of scouring the internet, trying to understand horse racing and big fits, the whole nine. I can't wait to watch it.
And Jac, you're right there, right? I mean, you're not far from this place.
That's right. So I grew up in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, which is about, it's about exactly 2 hours or so from the track from Louisville. And so, we always grew up saying that you go to a party and then all of a sudden a horse race breaks out. And that's sort of the truth about going to the Derby. And then they had the infield, which if you've ever been to a concert of any kind, it's like the lawn portion, if you will. So like that's the true party. And we still dress up as if we're sitting in Millionaires Row or whatever, and we try to look the part. We might not have quite the same suits, but we try to go look the part. But it usually winds up, if there's even a drizzle of rain, which if you've ever been to the Derby, you know that they have a long history of rainy days. There's more muddy suits and mudslides in that infield than you could physically imagine.
And of course, Jac, for the first time in like forever that anyone can remember, this year it was like perfectly fine on the day that they were supposed to originally have the Kentucky Derby on the first Saturday in May. So this is what it looks like empty. Unfortunately, that's basically what it will look like coming up on Saturday. Here's the shot, guys, of the jam-packed grandstands, the horses going around the turn.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right.
Timeless.
And you're right, Jac. It's a party. I went for the first time last year in the historic race where Maximum Security we thought won, but then it was Country House who got the win because of the DQ. It is a massive party, but Jac, I don't know if you've ever been to the Preakness. Even more of a party there. Like at Kentucky, I was like there are probably 40% of the people that don't really care about horse racing here. They just want to come here for the party and might not even watch the race. At the Preakness, I thought it was more like 80 to 90%.
Didn't care.
Party. Yeah.
Well, you have Louisville's campus that's right there, located right there. And so there's a bunch of kids that we grew up with. So you would sort of do like the fraternity tailgate in the parking lot. And what a lot of people don't realize is I would say, 90%, 95% of the people that you tailgate with don't even go in. Like they could care less about the fact that there's even going to be a Kentucky Derby or an event or a big national event 2 minutes away. They're just there for the tailgate, and then everybody just goes home. I don't even know if they end up watching the race, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it's more about the tailgate, really.
Jac, did you ever like grow up with anyone who owned a horse, or how many local people have horses in the race?
Definitely a lot. I'm not in the race. Like this is pretty prestigious race, and you got to get. I mean, it's only 3-year-old horses. That's what a lot of people don't know. I mean, that's a young horse, and so you have to have a ton of success and win a lot of races or place high in a lot of races early on in your life and early on in your horse life to even have a chance. I mean, some race horses wind up having the best of their career when they're 3 to 10 years old, right? But then they'd have no chance to run in a Kentucky Derby. So it's really just young horses that are in this thing. But I definitely have known a couple. My dad's been in the horse race thing since the 80s. Ever since he was playing in Cincinnati, he's obsessed with it. He's been going for as long as I can remember.
Has he ever been part owner?
Oh, yeah.
Horse? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Not in the Derby, but he's owned some horses that have lost. Yeah.
And I do think when we talk about, and I got linked up with horse racing with NBC when I got hired about a year ago, and I really didn't have that much experience with it. before then. But I've often thought, like, how do you get the common fan and more people interested in horse racing? And I think the betting part of it, certainly, you have a little skin in the game. But I've thought, Jack, I was like, man, this ownership deal, and there are different syndications out there and different ownership companies that basically slice up their ownership into 1% chunks. And so you could own a piece of one of these top horses for, just a few $100s, and you got a little skin in the game. I do kind of think that's interesting because I feel like it gets people more vested in the individual stories of some of these horses. So I don't know. I kind of hope that they do more of that, and you have more of these opportunities to own just a fraction of these horses. And quite honestly, guys, it really could flow into other sports too. Man, if I could own a piece of the Detroit Lions back in Detroit, that'd be cool too.
It's the way to do it, because it's the fun thing about horse racing, and the way that I've always seen, from a distance, the way that they are involved in it, like you're saying, Ahmed, is there's about 20 of them, and they all own just a little bit, so they're not going in. I mean, it's not like it's like getting in the restaurant business. Like 99.9% of these things fail, right? You're not in it for money making really, unless you're Bob Baffert or one of those top line trainers. You're just owning whatever 3%, 5% of the horse, but it gives you an interest, and you end up checking in on his training and calling the trainer and hearing about how he's doing and what's his time today, or why is he missing this race, or how is he in the mud, and then next thing you know, you're hooked.
Well, it's just the buy-in rate. But I think when I'm thinking about like owning any type of team or any type of sporting event, I feel like personally I would love to own like a minor league baseball team, a horse, or like maybe a race car. I think of like, what are the coolest things to own? I would love to have a suite at some race, like in Saratoga or something. Just bring all your boys, have a rowdy time, and just watch the race. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yep. It's such a fun time. All right, Corey, you're going to get into later on some of the fashion. You're the fashion guy of the pod. I'm
just wearing an Aloha shirt.
You hold that banner. But here are the horses. I'll zoom in here. There's 18 in the field this year. Usually it's 20. This year we got 18, which actually is more than they thought just a couple of weeks ago. And so first, right off the bat, you just look at all. This is what I normally do as a novice. You look at all the horses' names, and then you start with one that you like the most. And I think both of you guys would be intrigued by South Bend.
As Notre Dame. Irish.
50 to 1, baby.
On the morning line odds. Yeah,
these are gold there.
So these are all the morning line odds here. This column, those will change once betting opens up, but 50 to 1 are the long shots right now. Attachment rate, winning impression, always good to have winning in your name. I feel like that's a good omen, even though that horse is also 50 to 1.
It's like the Long Island blockchain iced tea. It's you just throw in winning and it automatically increases your odds or something. Or
correct.
That's about right. And a lot of people don't know too. You sort of pick like the mom horse and the dad horse. You try to pick some piece of their name to incorporate into the child's name.
Is that right?
That's the way that naming horses goes. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Usually it's the sire and the dam. You take a little bit of each one and maybe you put a little twist on it. And so there are a lot of interesting stories on how some of these horses got their name. The favorites for this race are all here on the outside. Honor AP, authentic, but the real favorite is Tiz the Law. And if everything you've read and you listen with some of the expert handicappers out there, they feel like Tiz the Law is as much of a favorite as we've seen since American Pharaoh won the Triple Crown and Justify won the Triple Crown. Tiz the Law has already won the Belmont, which came before the Kentucky Derby this year, so a little bit unusual. But guys, it's super boring, but everywhere you turn, everyone you listen to, they're saying there's almost no way that Tiz the Law loses this race unless he goes out there and throws up a clunker, which he really hasn't done in his career so far.
Yeah, or gets pinned in the rail. Or
which he
trips out of the
outside.
gate. Yeah, right. It's like all those kinds of things. Tell you what, that horse was in cruise control for the Belmont, though. He was sitting in third place, looked like he was just gliding around that track. I mean, just so subtle and just so easy to be sitting in that third spot, which is always the sign of a terrific horse who's just saving energy and just gliding at the front of the pack. And then when they finally gave him the whip a couple of times, I mean, that horse broke down the stretch like you just don't see. And I think that's why when you see odds move, and it wasn't like he ran out of juice getting close to the finish line. He was picking up speed all the way through the wire. I mean, that's when you know you have one of these potential Triple Crown type horses.
One of the interesting things is that post position, though, post 17 is 0 for 41 at the Kentucky Derby. So, in an unprecedented year, I'm thinking, okay, this is the 1 year, right? That's going to be 1 for 40. I mean, this is the year that you can change that win column. But yeah, Tiz the Law just looks too good right now. And I've been watching a lot of the tape of Tiz the Law, and I'm trying to look at tape maybe the same way a football guy looks at tape. I'm looking at horses, and it's funny because he always kind of stalks right in the third, second position, and then like Jack says, just turned on the burners right in that final turn. And I don't know what it is. He has a jet booster or something. It flies, takes off. So he's for sure the favorite. Look at you
guys looking at game film, breaking it down. You guys talk like you're horsemen, experienced horsemen right here. So 6 wins, 7 career starts, 4 straight wins for Tiz the Law. Here's the one caveat to that, though. His one loss in his career came right here at Churchill Downs. And so it's the one track. I know they don't want rain there, but he's been super, super successful. And he's New York bred, and he has become a star at Saratoga. So much so that here, let me show you this. And my pictures aren't working as well, but they changed the stop signs, guys. They put stop, all way, Tiz the Law underneath it there at Saratoga. If I can pull it up, but he's become a star, and so you always look for these stories of, okay, which is the horse that has the cool story and like we want to root for, and then you got the favorite. And I feel like in a lot of ways this year, both of those are the same horse, and I think it's Tiz the Law.
Yeah, very well may have the best name too. Something about that name that just hits, and it's a New York bred trained horse. In the first of its kind, the first New York bred trained horse to win the Belmont, which is in New York too. So that's why he's already a local favorite.
Star. There it is right there. He's a star. So yeah, Tiz the Law, which I came to find out later on that they had to take those down because it is actually against the law to deface the stop sign. Not that they defaced it, but they changed it a little bit right there. So he is the favorite. And I think I got a couple other pictures here. I mean, just a beautiful, beautiful horse there. Working his way through. And then you got Bob Baffert. We got 2 horses in here from Bob Baffert, guys. So you never, as I work with the Hall of Fame jockey, Jerry Bailey, he says, never overlook the white-haired guy. And that's Bob Baffert. He's got the 18 in this race. That's authentic. He's got, which one? He's got the 10, which is 1,000 words. And I'll give you a little scouting report here on authentic. And I'm getting a lot of this information, guys, from our wonderful research crew at NBC, and so you can thank them if you get any betting tips here. Authentic is an interesting horse, a funny horse, according to legendary trainer Mike Smith. He said he's still got some growing up to do, but it's a horse that many people saw run in the Haskell, won by a nose. And I think it's just when this guy is associated with any horse in the Kentucky Derby, he's won them 5 times. If he wins another one, that'll tie for the most ever for a trainer. It's like you always kind of scratch it. It's like a Bill Belichick team, right? No Tom Brady, but you're like, you know what? I can't totally discount what this guy's bringing. So I wouldn't count out Authentic, who's won over $1 million in his career so far.
Yeah, you can never count. You can never count a guy like that out. I really like 1,000 words too. Another Bob Baffert trained horse. Yeah. He's had a little bit of inconsistent year, but he beat Honor AP, who was one of the favorites. I think the odds on Honor AP are what, like 8-1? Is that right?
Was that
5-1? 5-1. Yeah, he beat him in the shared belief stakes. So 1,000 words is a sleeper, at 10. And I didn't know 1,000 words too, by the way, sold for I think $1 million. I didn't know that. I'm like, wow, if I had $1 million, I probably wouldn't buy a horse, but I could think of a couple other things to buy.
Yeah. Hey, if they ended up winning the Kentucky Derby, it was a good investment.
Right.
I guess. Which
is, you got some long odds on that. But typically, if you have $1 million, it's not when you buy $1 million racehorse. It's when you have like $100 million. That's when you start thinking about those $1 million racehorses. What's kind of funny though is you never quite know. Like you can get $1 million racehorse, it gets something wrong with its front right leg, and that they're worth $1 million. And sometimes it's the horses that are $10,000 that you put nothing into that wind up just going straight to the top, and those are that's when you really make your money.
Let me give you a couple other storylines here. You're right. Honor AP is another horse that a lot of people are betting on. As I'm trying to pull up the pictures here, they're a little finicky for me. Hold on. Okay, there we go. This horse right here, guys, is Finnick the Fierce. This is Finnick the Fierce, and this horse has an interesting story. He's missing, and I don't know if you can tell, they're missing his right eye. This horse is surgically removed when he was young because he had a cataract there. Also owned by the veterinarian who examined him just hours after his birth. And so a long shot, Finnick the Fierce, but certainly some reasons to root for that horse. I've got another long shot here, guys, in King Guillermo. I don't know if you recognize this man right here.
Oh, yeah.
Do you recognize Victor Martinez, the legendary all-star baseball player?
Oh, yeah. Is he an owner?
Yep. He is part of the ownership group there of King Guillermo, and so he is into horse racing, and he is loving it. Now, there is some bad news with King Guillermo, is that I think he has some slight injury, missed a workout today, and so not totally sure if he's going to be in the race, but
not a great look, right?
These all-star connections are certainly something to root for. I'll give you 3 other long shots in here that I read up on, and these are expert handicappers that know more than I do about this whole thing. This is Money Moves. This is Money Moves. The 7 horse in the race is getting some love from some of the handicappers out there as a horse to watch. Todd Pletcher trained, who's had a ton of horses in the Kentucky Derby. You got South Bend. This is the one that you guys are all up here. Here's your horse. Here's your horse, guys. How does he look?
At that. I mean, it looks magnificent.
Yeah.
It's just like one of the favorite cities in the world.
Yeah. Plenty of oxygen in there. That's important.
It kind of looks like, honestly, South, can you go back to the picture really quick?
Yeah.
South Bend, like low key, looks like, if Ghost Rider, was a horse racer instead of if he didn't ride choppers, it looks like that horse would be on fire. Like this would be like a Ghost Rider Derby edition, or like a medieval Ghost Rider. He would definitely star in any comic book superhero film. Yeah. If I was casting a flaming horse,
this is the horse for you, right?
That's immediately print.
So 2 more. What is this? Sole Volante is a horse that many people are on, and this is Safi Joseph is the trainer, just 33 years old. He is one of these up-and-coming trainers with the 15 horse. This is New York Traffic. Safi Joseph, I've been able to meet him a couple times, came from Barbados. He actually started training when he was 18 years old in Barbados, won the Barbados Triple Crown when he was 22, and now he's come over to the United States, and in the last calendar year, has had some of the most success that he's ever had in his racing career, at least here in the States. So this is another long shot to look at here. But here are the longest long shots in the history. And so you wonder, it's like, okay, if you're not going to go with Tiz the Law, you're basically going to have to go with a long shot because he's going to be such the heavy favorite. But it was just last year that Country House, 2019, because of a DQ, won the Kentucky Derby. And if you put $2 on him, you would have walked away with $132. Not bad in 2 minutes.
Haul,
2 minutes work. 2 minutes work right there. Have you guys? So Jack, when you would go and you'd go to the racetrack, are you a big gambler? Would you put some significant money on these horses, or would you just watch for the show, get the cigar?
No, I would put money. I hope I'm allowed to say that, but yeah, I would. Hell yeah. That's like 90% of the reason why you go. You put it on, it makes you root for, horses and races that you wouldn't normally care about. Typically, you just kind of be having your drink and having a conversation and whatever, but you put $5, $10, $20 on one of the long shots, and all of a sudden you are locked into that whole. And what a lot of people don't realize too, it's not like there's one race all day, right? It's not like you have like one horse race. Everybody shows up for 2 minutes. It's like the 12th race of the day. So there's one in the morning. It just goes about every 20 minutes, 10 minutes or so, a race. So if you have money all over the table, it winds up being a hell of a day.
Yeah, I didn't know that when you went to these races that there were all these different horse races before that. I thought it was
just the Kentucky. Yeah, it's just like
I thought it was just like one big race, and I don't know, but then again, it's a minute and a half, so kind of a big.
When I first started doing the shows, that was one of the things I learned, and I knew they had races throughout the day. But if we have a window that's a broadcast window of 3 hours, and it's leading up to the Kentucky Derby later that day, we'll have 5 races in that window. They were like talking about the Kentucky Derby. We're previewing the Kentucky Derby. And then, hold on, let's stop down. We got a race. And if they're racing on Kentucky Derby Day at Churchill Downs, chances are they're pretty good horses in their own right. And so it was fun because it kind of gives a jolt of energy all the way leading up to the big race at the end of the day. So here's the Tiz the Law. Everyone thinks Tiz the Law is gonna win this one, a heavy favorite. And it's funny, guys, betting the favorite's boring. It's so boring, right? You don't want to do it, but the last, you see the last 10 years, 6 out of the 10 years in the Kentucky Derby, favorite won. In the 2000s, 4 out of 10. Before that, the favorite wasn't winning as much, which makes more sense when you have a field of 20. You have a field of 20, the chances of the favorite getting upset are a whole lot greater. This year we have a field of 18, but it's kind of boring. It's like when you do your NCAA tournament bracket, guys, and you go with all the 1 seeds, you're like, I didn't want to do that. That's so boring. I want to be the guy that picks the long shot.
Yeah, and it does seem like there's, especially as of late, there's been a greater distance between the rest of the pack and the top. Just seems like there's been some separation there. Justify, American Pharaoh. Now you have Tiz the Law coming in. I mean, for a long time, it was like 30 years or something like that. There hadn't been a Triple Crown winner. We may get 2 in the last, couple of years, handful of years.
Yeah.
So it does seem like there's become some separation for whatever reason at the top in the horse racing business lately.
Yeah, and we're not. Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
I was saying when I was watching all of the tape of these horses, I mean, when they all were in the same field, the top 2 or 3 horses that are in your favorites blew everyone out. Like it wasn't even close. Like in the final stretch, I thought they'd be like neck and neck or something. It wasn't even close. So that's But I'm with you, Ahmed. I want to choose somebody underdog. So like my take is an underdog pick. I'm having fun with it. Like $2. What the heck? I don't gamble, but generally that's the way I look at it.
If I did, and if it was just $2, you really don't care. And we're not obviously expert handicappers. We barely qualify as novice handicappers here, but I think of all years to go with a favorite, this is probably another one of those years. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, you're right. There's not a whole lot of information on these horses. It was a point you were making earlier, Jack. It's just 3-year-old horses here, and some of them have only raced a handful of times in their career, three or four times, and so it really is hard to get a read on what these horses are and what they will be in a situation with hundreds of thousands of screaming fans. We don't have that this year. We've had more information on Tiz the Law because normally it's run in May. Here we've had a few more months to see, okay, is he getting better? And he has been getting better. And so I feel like this is a little bit of an unusual year in that we do have a little more information. I'll throw one more big time long shot. No, maybe not big time long shot out there. This is Storm the Court. Well, this is not Storm the Court. This is Brittany Urton right here. Works with us over at NBC. Her dad is Peter Urton, trainer. And he trained Storm the Court. Oh, that's your first picture of your fashion show there, Corey. But he trains the horse Storm the Court, which won at the Breeders' Cup, champion 2-year-old last year at the Breeders' Cup. They got to celebrate together. Storm the Court is in the Kentucky Derby, and so if it happens again, you'll see Brittany Urton and Peter Urton celebrating daughter and father once again. So that's just another story to throw out there. To keep in mind. So I gave you a preview right there, Corey. You got to talk about the fashion when you talk about the Kentucky Derby.
Yes, this is my first Kentucky Derby, watching it from start to finish. So like I said, I'm very much a novice.
Yes. And there will not be fans in the stands, unfortunately, for this Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, but that gives me time to to do my research, and so when I go next year,
yes,
I can do it.
So hold on. Before we get into your pictures here, Corey, I want to know what Jack has worn when he's gone in the past.
Oh, I go all in, man. I go all in. I just make it as weird as I can. If there's a level weirder, I can go in the closet. I just keep leveling up until race time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hat. It's like they don't even need to go together, right? It's just like hat, tie, jacket. Yeah.
Shoes, weird shoes. It's almost like going to like family brunch at Easter. You just look for like the brightest colors in the closet. You just put them on. That's kind of the whole strategy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I noticed that.
Yes.
I was confused. I was like, there are all these crazy colors and patterns. I was very confused.
But it's normally spring, right? So that's a little different. Like this is like fall color version now, but it's typically
great point.
Springtime.
It's
The
like white.
implications. Wow.
Can you
That's
do
great.
white? I guess it's before Labor Day, so white is still okay. Corey might need to help us on those.
Yeah, I really didn't even factor in the fact that this is a fall derby. Wow. I mean, Jack, I should have reached out to Jack before this.
It changes everything. It changes everything.
It really does. But yeah, basically the way I looked at it was this. To understand anything, you have to look at the historical context, right? So you have to understand how the Kentucky Derby was founded. It was Meriwether Lewis Clark Jr. Let me make sure I got his name right.
Okay.
Meriwether Lewis Clark Jr., who went overseas to Europe, saw horse races and said, wow, we need this back in America, and then founded the Kentucky Derby in the late 1800s. And apparently it was totally fine as part of society for men and women to go to these events and socialize. But in the U.S., apparently American women were a little hesitant to go at first. No one knows exactly why, but the top two culprits are gambling and drinking. So those $2 bets, I guess, really turned a lot of people off. But basically, the way that they got around that was saying, okay, let's plan this as a fashion society event where you have your full morning dress code, and then you can have picnics with your friends. Let's make it a big deal as a fashion event. And then that overcame the social taboo, and it was a huge hit, right? So there was hats in the beginning, but the thing is, it didn't really mention hats being the essential part of the Kentucky Derby. Even in the 1926 Time write-up of the Kentucky Derby, they mentioned hats, but in passing. It was like, the horse running by, and there were some people with hats. But because at that time, like if you look at any sporting event in the 20s, 30s, way back in the early 1900s, people wore suits and hats to everything: boxing matches, basketball games, tennis matches, the whole nine. So hats weren't particularly the crowning achievement, no pun intended, of the Derby yet. So I thought that was really interesting. So, so I look at this next picture. This is a great example of why it's so important to study history. I look at this picture. This is from the 1940s, right? A guy wearing a suit with shorts, long socks, and shoes. It's a very like British schoolboy fit, right? And by fit, it's short for outfit. This is a very like British schoolboy fit. Go to the next picture. This you saw LeBron James and his team, right? Wear the British schoolboy fit as well. And Tom Brown's obviously a student of the game. He knows, like, that's what every fashion designer do. You have to look at the past to understand the future.
Yeah.
And put your own little twist on it. So I wanted to do this entire like fashion bit on the past, what I think are the golden dress ages of the Kentucky Derby.
It's a look I've never tried. Jack, have you tried this look?
The shorts with the suit?
Yes.
There's some hot summer days where I don't want to count this look out. Sometimes you're so sweaty in a suit. I mean, you're miserable. For that reason alone, I'm not putting out the capris with the suit top. I like what's happening here.
Hey, if it's in style, right?
Yep.
Go with it. If it's going to keep you cooler, I'm burning.
Well, Pharrell did this at he performed at an award show in the same thing. But like personally, but it was a tuxedo, short tuxedo. But I'm not a huge
Corey. What about the socks? Just out of curiosity, when you go with the dress shoes and you got the shorts, right? I like the way they're cut. They're cut above the knee there. Classy way to do it. What about the sock situation? Curious for your expert analysis there.
One, I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy who wears clothes.
You're an expert.
But
Get out of here
when
with
it
that
comes to
stuff.
socks, man, you have to go high socks. I mean, if you're gonna wear shorts, in my personal opinion, I feel like you have to go high socks. Some people have done ankle socks, but generally, I am not a fan of ankle socks. Period. That's just my personal take. It's a very strong opinion.
But you're right. It's something you have to think about, how the socks are going to look, because you see the tops of them for the first time wearing a suit. Something you didn't consider before.
Well, if you go to the past picture, I think he's wearing Argyle socks. Right? It's like there's a way you can kind of like mix it up a little bit. That's why the history is such a great teacher. You got to look at Pitt's past to understand Pitt's present and future.
All right, hold on. I gotta go here real quick.
I got a question while we're holding on. Hey, Corey, how long do you think it takes before styles cycle back in? Like, how many generations does it typically skip? Is it 1 decade? Is it 2 decades? How long does it typically take before something like that? I mean, think about how long it took for this style to cycle back in with LeBron. What's just your feeling on that?
Well, it depends. It's a great question. I would generally say like every 20 to 30 years. Because like, for instance, the 90s in the past couple of years have had a renaissance. Everyone's looking at the 90s. And it's about 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And then now people are looking at the 80s, I think, a little bit. And then there's like these random things generally, like right now, like the 60s are really cool. So like you can always go back in the past. I feel like the 60s and 70s and just generally are just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, I think it's every like 20 years or so you look back and just take into account, because it's like nostalgia. When we're like 40, I think we're going to look at things that are like, oh man, remember when we used to wear this as kids and stuff? And then you bring out the old stuff, and then like our children will wear that to college and be like, look what I found in my dad's closet, this old jumper that was Notre Dame crew neck, from like the early 2010s. That's so vintage. That's how vintage works,
Yeah. And it becomes cool all over again. Like, it makes complete sense. And then all of a sudden their friends want to wear it. And then they go into their dad's closet or mom's closet. Yeah.
Yeah. And you become a dad, you turn on the radio and they're playing oldies and they're all the songs that you grew up with. And you're like, wait a second. This is not supposed to be happening.
Terrifying. So this picture, this is 1920s, which is like
this is going back into, we're going back even more than 20 years here.
Yeah, like 100 years, right?
Wow.
So if zoom in to the ladies in the far left corner, right, the very last two women. So I love their fits. Like, look at that, like texture. It looks almost like a Missoni rib with the stripes. The collar line is like impeccable. The hat is complimentary, but it doesn't take away from the fit, which I think is a very nice touch. But huge fan of that fit. And then go to the person above her, that woman, right there. Right here. I love like how she looks almost so despondent, a little bored. Like, this is the roaring 20s at the Kentucky Derby. Yeah. And listening to what Jack just said, it's a party. And she's like, I'd rather be at some cafe reading, Flaubert or something. Which is just hilarious.
She's focused on her horse right now. Her horse is supposed to be near the lead in the first furlong, and he's fading back. This is not how it's supposed to go. Is
that Snoopy there on her shoulder? Is that Snoopy? I'm trying to get a closer look. That might be pre-Snoopy.
The design right there?
Does that look like Snoopy?
Not really, not to me.
No, it looks
to be okay.
Well, I may need to go back to the eye doctor.
If I turn my head a little bit, I could kind of see it, like sleeping on top of the doghouse or whatever.
Yes, yeah, early Snoopy.
But I love that picture. I think it's just a nice way to kind of root, like, this is a suit and tie event, super formal. Then the next one, let's see what we got next.
Okay, next one, bring up here, and
boom. So now we're going into one of my favorite periods of all fashion, which is the 40s and the 50s, early 50s.
Wow, why that? Why do you like that the most?
Because that picture right there, other than the guy, if you zoom into the woman and not the guy wearing a top hat, because no one wears top hats these days.
Yeah, right.
Except for Slash. But like, if you look at her, she looks timeless.
Yeah.
Like, there's a certain elegance to every picture that was taken in the 40s and 50s, in my personal
What do you mean? This guy's not timeless over here?
He looks timeless, but I can't tell if it was 1860 to 1920. Like, that's kind of the time that I feel like for him. But the woman
timeless,
on the right,
1860 to like 1560, maybe.
But still timeless at a certain quality. But the woman on the right seems like modern timeless. Like, you could just see that like in Time magazine or something, which is actually where I got this. That's the whole point. It's like, that's the whole vibe, is how do you make it timeless and classy and elegant. It's another one. Look at that. It's just that one. The hat kind of dates it a little bit. You were like, okay, no one wears hats like that. That's pretty like old school. But I love the pattern play. I think that's a really just fun thing to make it pop. The 40s and 50s were all about, monochromatic fits that are all kind of professional fits that really focus on silhouettes, shoulders, hips, like the like silhouettes. And then you have accent pieces. So you can see the parasol and the hat were the accent pieces. Because if you're wearing like all black, the one thing pops, and that's the pattern,
Yeah.
Right.
Is that an umbrella there?
Yeah. It looks like an umbrella. A little shade.
Have you ever done a parasol in the summertime? Like, because people think umbrellas for rain, but parasols are a game changer.
What's a parasol?
It's just I'm guessing it's an umbrella.
But just using it in like when it's not raining.
Like for the shade, just catch a little shade wherever you are.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that anymore? That makes too much sense. You go to a game, you get a little hot, you just put your umbrella up. I feel like the guy 3 rows back might be kind of pissed.
That's You got to make sure you're bigger than that guy. If you're bigger than that guy, then you can do it. You can bring out your, what is it, parasol?
Yeah, the parasol needs a return. We need a return. This one, look at this awesome photo. Once again, timeless. Like, to me, I think that's just unbelievable. And I love that hat. Can you zoom in on the hat on the woman in black?
This one right here. Yeah.
Look at that hat. The trim, the plaid trim, so chic.
Wow.
And her horse is winning. Her horse is winning for sure.
Yeah, she won $2. The next one. This one is a perfect example of what I was talking about, right? Like all monochrome. Yeah. But look at how the hat just pops. The pattern and go down.
Well, it might be alive, Corey. That's the reason I think it pops. It may be alive.
The proof is actually a dog.
Won the dog show that year. Won the dog. Yeah, there's Snoopy.
And if you look at her ring, you could see the ring pops too. You can see the brooch pops, obviously. Brooches had a moment, past couple years. But like this is what I'm talking about. Like if you wear just all black, boom, everything you do, all your accessories pop, and it just makes it look like $1 million. The earrings, everything just has so much more shine and power to it.
I like it.
Next one.
Next one. Oh, I gotta reopen. I gotta reopen here. Hold on.
Dude, for the next Derby, we got to get Corey on the red carpet doing this.
I know.
Please let me stand next to Corey and just hold the microphone and just let him break down every outfit that walks in.
We're going to learn more about fashion here than we are about actually the horses who are in the race, which I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with that.
That's what Derby's all about. Shoot.
Yeah. So this one right here, once again, is just a classic photo. If you zoom in, you can see.
I think zooming in is where I'm getting in trouble here, but that's all right.
No, but to go up a little bit.
Okay.
But see, this I'm talking about with like the silhouette idea, right? She's wearing a floral dress, but it's cinched at the belt at her waist.
That's true.
Look at the bottom part, it's really structured. It has a nice billowing effect, But yeah, the florals are such a nice May, spring to summer transition. It just feels great, like it just feels like summer. So that's why I love that photo. It just made me feel like that's Midwestern summer. That's Kentucky summer. It just feels like summer. This one, I was shocked by how modern this fit feels. Like I live in New York, right? And when you see this fit, if she was not wearing whatever shoes those are wearing, if she was wearing Jordans or like Nike Sakai's, I'm telling you, this is a fit in Brooklyn. You're wearing a floral dress with a blazer and a ball cap. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just like an art writer in Brooklyn or, downtown Manhattan. Like that is so modern. And you can see it's like the precursor for a lot of 90s fits too. I mean, Princess Diana has worn like similar fits, but with like a chunky white tennis shoe. You know what I'm saying? That's a great New York fit.
Ahead of its time.
Weird to see the bluegrass in black and white too. I've never quite seen that before.
Sure.
Yeah. That's the world famous bluegrass right there. You guys know the story of the bluegrass, right?
The old Kentucky bluegrass. I know the name is Kentucky bluegrass. What is that? What's the history behind that?
So green, so flush.
Yeah.
Specifically there in May, borderline looks blue. I personally have never seen it. To me, it looks about as green as this T-shirt, but I'll deny I ever said that.
That's
what? It's so green and flush, it looks blue?
That's right. The Bluegrass State, baby. Yeah, they got it on license plate. Every license plate in Kentucky says the Bluegrass State. Never quite figured it out.
Huh. You're like, it all looks green. Jack's like, it looks green, guys. We got to go green grass. Let's just go green grass.
Every time somebody says that, I act like it looks blue too. Like I just played into it my whole life. I'm just keeping it real with you guys because you're my boys.
Because if you say green, you'll be disowned, and you almost have to move out. You have to move out and never go back.
You got to cross the river at that point.
All right, Corey, we got a few more pictures here, I think.
Yeah,
right?
so this is jockey fits are great. Just to generally look at that, like the knee-high riding boots.
Yeah,
I love I'm not a huge fan of riding pants. They kind of like a drop crotch, and then they kind of like taper in a strange way around like the knee or right above the knee. Not a huge fan of that, but I love the tan with the riding boot, like cognac leather, and the buckle. It's a beautiful play, like such great texture play, and it just looks awesome. It looks just unbelievable, that cognac leather. And then, of course, you're riding a horse wearing a tailored and tapered blazer. Some of them even have coattails. Like you look like Mozart, like conducting something. I think it's so classy.
I've always been a big fan of they've called it the European Cup, but tailored, right? It should fit properly. It's like Corey, the suits that your dad, maybe another NBA players wore in the 90s were not that way. A little baggier than
but there was something. But I will say the whole 80s suit look, like look at any Giorgio Armani ad from the 80s. Yeah, like, it plays. Like it's sweet. But I'm with you in the sense that like I like a tailored suit. I'm with
A
you.
little tighter. All right.
Do we know why it ever became that, like the baggy suit wave? What was the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, what?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not even going to pretend to know that.
Yeah. Well, and now every year they just get tighter.
Well, but it goes back and forth. You have the pendulum of like skin. It's almost like skinny jeans versus like, looser jeans. Like sometimes they're super big and baggy, and then other times they're super tight, and then they go back and forth.
Well, it's funny. I still have shirts from when I was in, even high school and college, and I was skinnier then, but I put them on now, and they're so much more baggy now than anything I wear. It's so weird. I was smaller back then, but it's just the way the style has shifted as far as, tailored and tight as opposed to baggy back in the day. All right, this guy seems pretty tailored and tight.
Yeah, so this is a waiter at the Kentucky Derby, and I thought it was interesting because everyone talks about spectators, but like who are the people who work the Derby? So this is in the 1950s, a guy serving a spectator. But look at the white chore jacket, the bow tie, the in-and-out style paper hat, tilted at the side. But look at his aviators. This is a key thing for any guy. I feel like if you're going to go to the Kentucky Derby, rain or shine, bring a pair of sunglasses because that guy looks like Steve McQueen. He looks like a movie star. And it's only because, and he's wearing a work outfit and he looks like a movie star. And that's because one, his sunglasses, and two, it's a film photograph. But if you have sunglasses, immediate movie star status.
Being able to pull off that hat and look like a movie star might be the most impressive thing of the podcast so far. It might be the best. It might be the best
Hands
thing
down.
we've seen. Yeah.
So this right
or
here,
maybe this guy.
Wow.
No, this guy.
It held it for about 2 seconds there, Ahmed.
Yeah. He held the mantle. It was a short championship.
So this guy is a master class in menswear. So
wow.
This is what I want to tell you guys.
Which one?
Down right, the elderly gentleman. So if you are going to think about this for a second, if you want to know something, do you go to someone who barely just started doing something or someone who's been doing it for a long time, right? Like I have been wearing clothes for like 2 decades, like 2.5 decades. Like, so I, in like company terms, I might be a SVP or a CEO, a young CEO or something, right? This guy has been wearing slacks for like 60 plus years. You know what I'm saying? He has 6 decades of experience. So I think he knows how to wear a pair of slacks. So like you have to look at your elders as far as how to wear clothes properly. I mean, look at that. It's a pleated slack, high-waisted with a corded thin leather belt, right? There's only one button that shows between the top of that waistline and his
You're right. You're right.
Like an open short, a Mac jacket, and then leather Oxford shoes, polished but worn in. This guy is like, I'm telling you, that's how you wear clothes. That's a casual menswear fit.
I was just thinking, the few people who are listeners to our podcast and not watchers on YouTube, I apologize. I mean, you really got to go. You got to go find it. You got to go find the link. Yeah, you got to go find the link at this point. All right, a handful more. I think we got 4 more pictures here. What do we got here?
It's just super 60s. That's why I love it. It's very like, Jackie Kennedy, very Marianne Faithfull. It's just the woman on the right. So I just wanted to incorporate that because it's not a timestamp. Exactly. This has a timestamp. Exactly when it was taken, which I think is cool.
I think the next one has a timestamp too. I'm saying early 90s.
Exactly. Late 80s, early 90s. But I love that jumper and this is one of my favorite looks, like that type of cardigan, like a knit cardigan with crazy color.
The woman in the green?
Yeah. With the white, that's like a athletic turtleneck. So I love that look so much. And the hat with the flowers on it too. I mean, so much creativity, so much fun. And she looks like really warm.
She does look warm. If it's a cool day, she looks like she's cozy.
And then here are just some like other Derby outfits. This is from Belmont. I just wanted to show like generally like this is to me this is 40s, 50s. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like that is great fashion. That's timeless. It looks great. Very like old golden age movie star Hollywood. And then the next slide,
the final one,
is Princess Di. And this is what I'm saying, like the polka dots with the great polka dot hat. So classy. This is at Derby, in the Derby and the Royal Suite in the Royal Box in London or in the UK. But like, she looks great. She looks great, and she's a fashion icon and will be forever. So, but I just love that this is the way that everyone in the Kentucky Derby, in my opinion, should dress. Like she looks unbelievable.
I love it. Jack, what do you think? Like that was the whole point of this podcast when we first created it, was to teach something. I feel like for the first time, like I learned something from listening to Corey, right? I was like, I I don't think I've said anything worth a crap, but I just learned something right there.
Well,
Thanks, Corey.
Ditto. That makes two of us, Ahmed. But I got to say, that was one of the more fascinating moments of my week right there. I think I could listen to Corey break down outfits. And we haven't even gotten to the modern day stuff yet. I mean, we're still hanging out, in the 80s.
I just wanted to go back back in the past.
But that's why we're going to be friends forever, Corey, is because you have that historian brain. Like whenever it comes to something that you're getting introduced to, the first thing you want to do is go back to the Genesis. You just want to return all the way home to where this all began. And there's nothing more pure than that. That's what I loved about what you just did right there.
You know, the present bores, Corey. It's like the present so boring.
No, it's like this
20 years.
I was watching all these movies like 1950s like Swedish films recently, and like it was really interesting because one of my favorite movies, 500 Days of Summer, references Ingmar Bergman film, The Seventh Seal. And I didn't even realize it because but that's the whole thing. Like Quentin Tarantino is a film historian. Like the guy loves film. So if you watch his films, he's referencing he's paying homage to all these great filmmakers of the past from all over the world. But if you don't know the history, you don't get the subtle reference. You're like, oh, that poster is actually from this other movie, or that red candle is a Shaw Brothers film candle. Like there's all these little Easter eggs that are hidden. So that's why I love fashion, because fashion is just laden with Easter eggs. If you know fashion history, you understand exactly what designers are doing now and what they're being inspired by.
So I know NBC will have cameras that are in, people's homes, and people will be zooming in, Microsoft Teamsing in. They'll be doing all that stuff, FaceTiming in. So we're going to get to see some of the fashion still, even though it won't be inside Churchill Downs. All right, before we go, guys, you got to pick your winner. So we got to pick the winner. Here are the 18 horses in the field. Jac.
I love it. Let me know with a live and local weather report from the great state of Kentucky.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
It looks like a warm 82 degrees and partly cloudy with a lot of sun.
Ooh.
No precipitation in the forecast. So the mudders are not quite as valuable.
Yes.
And a good day for Tiz the Law as well.
Tiz the Law. That's what they wanted. They were like, he's the favorite. Unless there's a little rain, which we've seen before in Kentucky, but meteorologist Jac Collinsworth says that is not a problem. So you're going Tiz the Law?
I mean, I can't go Tiz the Law. I'm taking South Bend, but Tiz the Law is going to win.
So he takes two. All right. Oh, South Bend, Bill Mott horse. Bill Mott, the trainer for South Bend, the trainer who won it all last year for the first time.
That's right.
With, Country House. All right, Corey, who are you going with?
Money moves.
Money moves. Todd Pletcher, Javier Castellano, they've had a lot of success. The reason?
Well, because in gambling, or I feel like gambling is just mispriced assets, right? So Money Moves has raced 3 times this year, won the first 2 races of the year, and then finished second in the last race after 4 months off. No one really knows much about this horse. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like a perfect mispriced asset. There's not a lot of information on him. Only insiders would know stuff. And he's priced at 30-1. I mean, if you're playing an odds game, I feel like, why not? Throw your hat in the ring.
Interesting. Now I feel pressure to not go with Tiz the Law because I feel like that will be made fun of. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I was covering the Haskell. I was there when Bob Baffert's Authentic won that race. Authentic will be right there next to Tiz the Law. He'll get to eye him. He'll get to size up the competition.
Intimidate him. Snort a couple times.
I'm going to say like Jack. I think Tiz the Law is going to win, but I'm going to pick Authentic. I'm going to get 2 horses for the price of 1.
That's right.
Figured out a way to do that.
You borderline got the trifecta. That's the old exacta pick right there.
Exacta. We got the exacta.
The crazy thing about horse racing, I'm telling you though, Corey made a good point there. It's like it would be like betting on, if you're a football fan, it would be like betting on a 15-year-old football game as the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Right? Like a 15-year-old football. It's a bunch of horses that are like just about to, finish puberty kind of a thing. They're like right in that in-between zone. And it's the biggest horse race of them all. It's just like, it makes no sense, but that's kind of the magic of it.
And the bummer is that a lot of the times, if they have a whole lot of success early, they don't race much past 3 or 4 just because there's so much money in breeding.
Yeah, it's not a bad life. They don't live a terrible life, but not quite as much running.
Yeah. No, the running ceases to exist. All right, guys. Well, that's good. That is everything to know about the Kentucky Derby. All things Kentucky Derby. Really, it was all things fashion, and we just touched on the 18 horses in the field. Corey, Jack, well done. Wear your Saturday best. root on your horses, and let's go make some money.
Amen. Pleasure as always.